Have you ever wondered what it would be like to understand a language that no human has ever been taught? What if a 4-year-old child could translate ancient symbols that scholars have spent lifetimes trying to decipher? What if those translations revealed something that would change everything we thought we knew about our existence? In the humid heat of Charleston, South Carolina, where the Spanish moss hangs heavy from ancient oak trees and the salt air carries whispers of forgotten centuries, a story unfolded that would challenge every notion of what we consider possible. A story about a child, about impossible knowledge, and about messages that seemed to come from somewhere beyond our understanding. This is Stories in Silence, where hidden truths find their voice. The afternoon sun filtered through the tall windows of the Sullivan home on Meeting Street, casting long shadows across the hardwood floors. 4-year-old Emma sat cross-legged on the antique rug, surrounded by her building blocks, her blonde curls falling across her face as she concentrated on her tower. The old house creaked and settled around her, its 200-year-old bones adjusting to the autumn temperature drop. Sarah Sullivan, Emma's mother, was reviewing patient files at the dining table. As a pediatric nurse at MUSC, she'd seen her share of childhood development quirks, but nothing could have prepared her for what was about to happen. On the television, a documentary about ancient civilizations played quietly in the background. Images of archaeological sites flickered across the screen. Sumerian tablets, Egyptian hieroglyphs, mysterious symbols carved into stone millennia ago. Emma stopped building. She tilted her head, listening to something that her mother couldn't hear. Then she spoke, but the words that came from her mouth weren't English. They weren't any language that should exist in the vocabulary of a Charleston preschooler. The sounds were ancient, guttural, beautiful, a flowing sequence of syllables that seemed to carry weight beyond their mere phonetics. Sarah's hands froze on her laptop keyboard. "Emma," her voice came out as barely a whisper. "What did you just say?" Emma turned to face her mother, and in that moment, Sarah saw something in her daughter's eyes that made her blood run cold. It wasn't the look of a 4-year-old. It was older, much older. "They're talking to me, Mommy," Emma said in her normal voice. "The bright ones. They want me to tell you something important." "Who's talking to you, sweetheart?" "The angels, but not the kind with wings in my picture books." Emma stood up, walking to the window that overlooked their garden. "These ones are made of light. They live in the spaces between things, and they're very worried." Sarah closed her laptop slowly, every maternal instinct firing at once. Was this a game, a fantasy, or was something genuinely wrong? "What are they worried about, baby?" Emma pressed her small hand against the window glass, leaving a tiny print. "They're worried because people forgot how to listen. They're worried because the big change is coming and nobody's ready. They said I have to help people remember before it's too late." The words were too coherent, too purposeful for a child who still sometimes confused her left and right. "Emma, where did you learn to talk like that? Those sounds you made just now?" "I didn't learn it, Mommy. I remembered it." That night, after Emma fell asleep clutching her stuffed rabbit, Sarah called her older sister, Dr. Rebecca Hartley. Rebecca was a linguistics professor at the College of Charleston, specializing in dead languages and ancient communication systems. "Becca, I need you to hear something." Sarah had recorded Emma's strange utterances on her phone. The 30-second clip played over the line, and she could hear her sister's sharp intake of breath. "Sarah, where did you get this recording?" "It's Emma. She started speaking like this afternoon." A long pause, then, "That's impossible." "What do you mean?" "Sarah, those phonetic structures. They're consistent with proto-linguistic patterns that predate known civilization. No 4-year-old should be able to produce those sounds. Hell, most adults can't. The tongue and throat movements required. Rebecca, you're scaring me." "I'm scaring myself. Can you bring her to my office tomorrow? I need to see this in person." The next morning, Rebecca set up a series of tests in her university office. She showed Emma images of ancient scripts, Sumerian cuneiform, Proto-Sinaitic, Linear A, symbols that remained undeciphered puzzles to the academic world. Emma looked at each one with the casual interest of a child flipping through a picture book. Then she began to speak. For each symbol, each ancient marking, she provided not just sounds but context. She described what the symbols meant, what they were trying to communicate, speaking partly in English and partly in that impossible ancient tongue that seemed to flow through her like water through a channel. "This one," Emma pointed to a Sumerian tablet image, "talks about the Star Walkers. That's what they called themselves. They came from very far away when the world was young. They wanted to teach people about the 3 types of light: the light you see, the light you feel, and the light you are." Rebecca's hands trembled as she took notes. "Emma, how do you know this?" "The bright ones show me. They come at night when it's quiet and everyone's sleeping. They put their hands on my head." She touched her own forehead, "and suddenly I know things. I see things that happened a long time ago. I see things that haven't happened yet." "What kinds of things that haven't happened yet?" Emma's expression grew serious, her blue eyes focusing on something beyond the office walls. "They show me lights in the sky. Lots of them, more than stars. They're coming to talk to everyone, not just kids like me. But first, people have to stop being so scared. If you're drawn to stories that question everything we think we know, stay with us, because here at Stories in Silence, we bring you tales that challenge reality itself." Over the following weeks, Emma's abilities intensified. She began drawing complex geometric patterns that Rebecca recognized as matching ancient astronomical charts. She hummed melodies that, when analyzed, corresponded to mathematical sequences that modern scientists had only recently discovered, encoded in the cosmic microwave background radiation. But the most disturbing development came when Emma started predicting specific events. "Mommy, the tall building downtown is going to have a fire tomorrow. Not a big one. Nobody gets hurt, but they'll have to close it for 3 days." Sarah had learned not to dismiss these statements. Sure enough, the next afternoon, a small electrical fire broke out in a historic building on Broad Street. No injuries, closed for repairs for exactly 3 days. "A lady with red hair is going to call you tonight. She's going to cry. Her daughter is like me." At 8:47 Mom, Sarah's phone rang. The woman on the other end had a thick Boston accent and was indeed crying. Her 6-year-old daughter had started speaking in ancient languages 3 days ago. She'd found Sarah's contact information through a private online forum where parents were quietly sharing impossible stories about their children. "There are others?" Sarah asked, her voice barely steady. "At least 30 that we know of," the woman said, "all over the country, all between ages 4 and 7. all saying the same things about lights in the sky and big changes coming. Someone has to investigate this. Someone has to tell people. Sarah found herself at the center of a growing network of confused, frightened parents. Through encrypted group chats and careful phone calls, they shared their stories. A 5-year-old in Portland who could read Sanskrit, a 4-year-old in Dallas who drew detailed maps of star systems astronomers hadn't cataloged yet, a 6-year-old in Chicago who predicted a minor earthquake 48 hours before seismologists detected any warning signs. The children all spoke of the same beings, entities they called the Bright Ones, or the Star Walkers, or simply the angels who don't have wings, and they all insisted that something massive was coming. Dr. Rebecca Hartley's academic career was built on skepticism and rigorous methodology. But even she couldn't deny what was happening. She assembled a small team of trusted colleagues, a neuroscientist, a child psychologist, and an astrophysicist who'd developed an interest in ancient astronaut theories after a near-death experience. They studied Emma and, with permission, 3 other children whose families had joined the network. The findings were impossible to rationalize. Brain scans showed unusual activity patterns when the children entered what they called their listening state, the theta waves associated with deep meditation or dreaming. But the children were fully conscious. The language centers of their brains lit up in ways that suggested they were accessing information from somewhere else. It's like they're tuning into a frequency, the neuroscientist explained during a late-night session. Like their brains are receivers picking up a signal that the rest of us can't detect. Or won't let ourselves detect, Rebecca added quietly. Emma sat in the center of the research room, electrodes attached to her small head, looking more curious than concerned. Dr. Rebecca, you want to know what they're really saying, don't you? Yes, sweetheart. Can you tell us? Emma closed her eyes. When she spoke again, her voice carried harmonics that shouldn't have been physiologically possible from a child's vocal cords. The recording equipment registered frequencies both above and below normal human range. They say humanity is at a choice point. You've built a world that's very smart, but not very wise. You've learned how to split atoms, but forgotten how to heal hearts. The change that's coming isn't an ending, it's an invitation. An invitation to what? The psychologist asked gently. To remember what you really are, to wake up. They say your species was seeded with 3 different types of gifts a very long time ago. Some people can feel things deeply. That's the water gift. Some people can know things without being told. That's the fire gift. Some people can build and protect. That's the earth gift. But you forgot you had gifts at all. You started thinking you were just small, just bodies walking around on one little planet. The astrophysicist leaned forward. Emma, these beings who talk to you, where are they from? Everywhere and nowhere. They exist in the spaces between light and shadow, but they've been watching Earth since before humans could speak. They helped a little, a long time ago. They gave some humans the gifts I talked about. Then they had to leave because humans needed to grow up on their own. But now, she paused as if listening to something the adults couldn't hear. Now they're coming back because you called them. We called them? How? With your fear, with your love, with your hope, with everything you feel so strongly it echoes across space. They hear your songs and they're answering. the signs came not as dramatic revelations, but as subtle shifts that only those paying attention would notice. Children around the world began drawing the same symbols. In Sao Paulo, in Mumbai, in Melbourne, in Moscow, kids who'd never met, who didn't share languages or cultures, produced identical geometric patterns in their crayon drawings. Reports of unusual lights in the sky increased exponentially, but these weren't the typical UFO sightings that conspiracy theorists debated. These were witnessed by thousands simultaneously, crystalline formations that held perfect geometric patterns, visible for exactly 17 minutes before vanishing. Emma's predictions became more specific. Next Tuesday, a lot of people are going to see something in the daytime sky over New York. It's going to look like a star, but stars don't shine like that when the sun is up. People are going to be confused, but they shouldn't be scared. It's just them saying hello. Sarah had learned to document everything. When Tuesday came, she watched the news with trembling hands. At 2:47 p.m. Eastern Time, a brilliant point of light appeared over Manhattan. It was visible from New Jersey to Connecticut, photographed by thousands, live-streamed, shared millions of times within minutes. It pulsed with a rhythm that felt almost musical. Astronomers scrambled for explanations. Atmospheric phenomenon, satellite reflection, mass hallucination, but none of the theories held up under scrutiny. The object remained visible for 17 minutes. Then it simply blinked out of existence. The internet exploded, but it wasn't panic. Strangely, most people reported feeling a sense of profound peace while watching the light. Many described it as beautiful or welcoming. That night, Emma spoke to her mother with unusual gravity. They're showing themselves little by little so people can get used to the idea. The big meeting is coming soon, before Christmas. They want everyone to know that humans aren't alone and never were. They want to help, but only if humans choose to accept the help. Help with what, baby? With the problems you can't solve by yourselves. The planet getting too hot. People fighting over things that don't matter. Forgetting how to take care of each other. They can teach you how to use the gifts they gave you a long time ago, but you have to be willing to remember. In early December, Emma told Sarah that she needed to go to a specific location in the Francis Marion National Forest, about 40 miles north of Charleston. She drew a detailed map, marking a clearing that she claimed she'd seen in her listening time. Sarah contacted the other families in the network. 12 of them reported the same thing. Their children had drawn maps to the same location, despite being scattered across different states. On December 15th, a cold Saturday morning with mist rising from the low country swamps, 15 families converged on the clearing Emma had identified. The children, ranging from 4 to 7 years old, representing different races, cultures, and backgrounds, walked into the center of the space as if choreographed. They held hands, forming a circle. The parents watched from the edges, holding their breath. Emma spoke, but her voice was multiplied, as if a choir was speaking through her and the other children simultaneously. We are the translators. We are the ones who still remember how to hear. What we've learned, we share freely. The beings of light ask only one thing of humanity. Open your hearts to the possibility that you are more than you've been told, that the universe is more alive than you've imagined. that love and consciousness are the fundamental forces of creation, not accidents of biology. The air in the clearing began to shimmer. Light formed around the circle of children, not harsh or blinding, but gentle, like dawn breaking over the ocean. And in that light, the parents saw something. Shapes that were almost human but more fluid, taller, composed of pure radiance. They moved with impossible grace, placing what looked like hands on the children's heads in a gesture of profound tenderness. One of the beings seemed to look directly at Sarah. She heard no words, but understanding flooded her consciousness. Your children are safe. They volunteered for this before they were born. They are bridges between worlds, showing your species what it can become. The change is not something being done to you, it's something being offered to you. You may accept or refuse, but know that you are loved beyond measure, and you have never been alone. The vision lasted perhaps 30 seconds. When it faded, the children released hands and ran back to their parents, laughing and chattering about normal 4-year-old things, snacks and playground equipment and favorite cartoons. But the adults stood in stunned silence, tears streaming down faces, knowing they had just witnessed something that would reshape their entire understanding of existence. In the weeks following the gathering, the phenomenon could no longer be ignored or explained away. More lights appeared in skies around the world. More children began speaking in impossible languages. Scientists who'd spent careers debunking paranormal claims found themselves confronting evidence that defied conventional frameworks, and slowly, gradually, the message spread. Something is reaching out. Something wants humanity to wake up and remember its true nature. On Christmas Eve, Emma sat on her mother's lap in their Charleston home, watching the lights twinkling on their tree. "Mommy, you want to know something?" "Always, baby. They're not going to force anything. Humans get to choose. Some people will remember the gifts and learn to use them. Some people will choose to stay the way they are. Both choices are okay. But the ones who choose to remember," her eyes sparkled with that ancient knowing, "they're going to help build something beautiful. A world where people don't just survive, they shine." Sarah held her daughter close, feeling the weight and wonder of these impossible months. "Are you scared, Emma, of all this?" "No, Mommy. I'm excited. The bright ones showed me what Earth looks like when people remember who they really are. It's so pretty. Everyone glows. Everyone can feel what other people feel. So nobody wants to hurt anybody. And the planet heals because people finally understand they're part of it, not separate from it." "That sounds like heaven, sweetheart." Emma shook her head. "Not heaven, just Earth waking up. Heaven is different. But this is going to be really good." 2 years have passed since Emma first spoke in that ancient tongue. The phenomenon has spread globally. Governments have reluctantly acknowledged contact events of unknown origin. Scientists have formed new departments to study what they're calling consciousness expansion events. Religious institutions are reinterpreting their texts in light of new understanding. And the children, they continue to grow, to learn, to translate messages from beings that exist just beyond the veil of normal perception. Emma is 6 now. She attends regular school, plays soccer, argues with her mother about bedtime. But occasionally, late at night, Sarah will find her daughter standing at the window, looking up at the stars, speaking softly in that language that predates human civilization, translating, bridging, remembering. "Mommy," Emma said recently, "they want me to tell you something important." "What's that, baby?" "That every person who's hearing this story, they chose to hear it. Something inside them is ready to remember. And when they're ready, really ready, the bright ones will help them remember too. All they have to do is ask. All they have to do is be willing to believe they're more than they've been told." What would you do if your child started speaking in languages they never learned? Would you dismiss it as fantasy, or would you have the courage to investigate? How many children around you might be trying to tell you something profound, something that could change everything? The question isn't whether this is real. The question is whether you're ready to listen. Because according to Emma and hundreds of children like her scattered across the globe, the bright ones are still reaching out, still offering, still hoping humanity will accept the invitation to remember its true nature. The lights in the sky continue to appear, the children continue to translate, and somewhere, just beyond the edge of what we call possible, something vast and loving is waiting for us to wake up. Are you listening? Can you hear them calling? And if you could, would you have the courage to answer? If this story has awakened something in you, join us for more revelations that challenge the boundaries of reality. Because some truths can't be silenced, they can only be remembered.